as usual, please bear with me while I try and set the camera up again. It has been a minute since I last came on here and spent some time with you guys. That has not at all been my intention. Oh man alive. Things have been a bit crazy. I'm sure you're all experiencing craziness at this time of year. Okay then, we're going to stay at this height because it suddenly won't go down any lower. Okay, let's see. Yeah, of course I'm going to kick it. That's typical. I'll see if I can pull it out a little bit more. Okay, I'll leave it there. You don't want to see, you just see a little bit of my screen door there. You don't want to be seeing that. So how have you all been? It's been a while, hasn't it? I've got my water bottle here, so if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm reaching for my water bottle. My kids got me a new sticker for it, so that's pretty cool. So everyone knows that's my water bottle when I go to hydrotherapy. It's quite warm here today. I didn't check the temperature, but it's in the 30s, 30 degrees Celsius, and it's very humid. I did check about an hour ago, the humidity was about 89%. So I don't know about you, but I don't do well with the humidity. So I've got, since it's been a while, I think it's been at least about 2 weeks since I last had a chance to get on here with you guys. Just move that mat and that rule out of the way. Make sure this is, looks dirty, but it's not. It must be my bench is getting a bit worn out. So yeah, it's been a minute. Lots to share today. I've been concentrating on sorting through all my stuff. So I think I've spent so far about 5 weeks going through boxes, and you know what? I still haven't even scratched the surface. So I'm feeling very accomplished though. I've gone and got some storage containers that are now in. I've temporarily set up my dining room table as my work area. I still have enough area to eat at, which I do when I need to eat, but I've now got clear containers and they're labelled, and so far the stuff I've been through, I can see what's what, so I'm really pleased with that. However, there's a few, maybe 5 containers piled up next to them that I thought I'd be able to access easily, but I found today when I went to get this stuff out to show you guys, I had to move them around a bit, so that's not very practical. That will have to change. But anyway, lots of stuff to show you. I think I'll start with this one because I just want to move this one out of the way. So I bought this bag when I go to hydrotherapy. If I get a chance, there's a couple of second-hand stores right near where I go. So if I have a chance, I just walk through and have a look if I can. And it's not often I get anything because, you know, I don't buy things for the sake of buying them usually. Not these days. This is a bit of a, I did buy it a bit for the sake of buying it. There was a big plastic bag and it had all this in it. And I spotted, which one was it? I spotted one of these fabrics and I thought, I'm familiar with that. So I bought it just for these fabrics, and for the hexagons. So these ones here, I quite like these colours. They're sort of 1930s style to me. Reproduction, obviously. They're not old. Some of them aren't. Some of them don't fit. They're the polka dot. And this colour I'm not sure about. But I've kept it in here. And this print I'm still not sure will fit in with what I want to do. I think this soft lemon will, and I think this will, because that looks a bit reproduction vintage to me. And this one does too. It's not as vintage looking as this, but I think it will work. This one isn't, but I think it will work. This pink polka dot, I keep changing my mind about it. It's a little bit bright to go with this, but I keep thinking maybe I just need a little pop here and there. So I've kept those in. And then I've got this sort of apricot one. And again, I'm not sure because it's like a wash. It's a bit more modern. Same with this one, I'm not sure, but I've kept it in because it sort of works. Then I've decided that I will keep these ones. So again, these are what I would call, more so this, goodness me. That's a big truck. It's another car retrieval truck. There's been a few of them lately. So this to me is a sort of a reproduction 1930s feed sack. Possibly this one. This one I think is, because it's the same as the pink. I reckon that one would work as a reproduction. This one. These are obviously just a variation, just a different colour on the same print. And then this one's the same as that mauve, so I think it will work. And then there's the blue, so I think they'll work. There's that paisley that I'm not sure about. Then we've got this soft pink polka dot. I'm not convinced yet, but I think it will work. I think I can get it to work. This is more of a Japanese inspired print, this one, but it's a soft pink and I think I can get it to work too. This one I'm not sure. Part of me feels like it's very modern and another part of me feels like it could work. It's could potentially be an older style reproduction print, so I've hung on to that one. This green I'm not sure about. Obviously it's more modern, but it sort of goes in with what I've kept. Now these are the ones I'm not sure about, this because it's a wash, but they're softer colours, so I think I may be able to get them to work. So I've hung on to them. This one I'm undecided. It's obviously a modern print, but I think I can get it to work as well. Then I've got these ones. These ones I know are a reproduction because I've actually bought these in fat quarters recently. So I've got all these ones. These ones here. So I'm going to mix those in as well. I think they will work. So there's a start of a sort of reproduction 30s inspired feed sack quilt. However, There were also others included, and I don't like these. I don't think they work. They're too modern, and I don't think they blend well. So I've got all these. Some of the papers have been taken out. That's a batik, and I mean that batik's not going to work in with that for me at all. Neither are the stars. This one to me is like 1980s, so is this one. I mean, that could potentially pass as a reproduction, but it didn't work for me. Same as this one. These just don't work. Now this is just, the middles have been taken out. There's another batik. This one. This one. This one I ummed and ahed over, but I decided it was too modern. It just didn't work with them when I put them together. This one's quite pretty. It's got butterflies, but it doesn't work. Too modern. That one's just, I mean, look. Imagine those two together. They just don't work for me at all. Another batik or wash, colour wash. And again, two of them. Now I've bought these before, I love them, but not for this, they don't work. So, what I want to say is I've got all these. That's not a bad blue, and potentially I could get that to work, but it's just a little bit too modern, I think. And then there's some of these, and then there's also some of these that are already done. Just modern colours, dots and things. And then there's also, this is that wash again, but these are just way too modern, these colours, to go in with what I want to achieve. There's that one I thought might work, but it just didn't work for me in the end. And again, that could potentially nearly pass as a reproduction, but again, it didn't work for me. Here's a nice pink batik. There's quite a few there. An apricot and a batik. This is pretty, but too modern. Another pretty batik. Here's those stars. And I haven't counted these, but there's quite a few here. Another batik. Here's the butterflies. Another batik. And obviously someone's pre-cut these. It looks like they might have been jelly rolls, and then someone's just cut them into squares. Another batik, and then we've got a few of those. A dark floral. This one. And that one. So, I won't use those. So if anyone thinks they might like those, you're more than welcome to have them if you can pay for postage. I'd love to be able to say I'd pay for postage, but I've been doing a bit of that lately and it's just getting a bit expensive. So if you'd like those and you're happy to pay for postage, you're more than welcome to them, unless you live in or near Lake Macquarie and you're happy to pick them up. That's doable too. So if that's something that interests you, send me a message. These also came in the bag, all these Christmas ones. These are jelly rolls as well. I still haven't made a decision on these. It's likely that I will move these on as well. I'm just not in the Christmas spirit at all. Haven't been for a long time, so undecided, but they may go too. So if any of these here, not the Christmas, any of these is something that might interest you, let me know and we can sort something out, I'm sure. So that was one of my finds. That cost me like a couple of bucks for that bag, and I thought it was worth it, even just for that. So I'm just looking for somewhere to put them out of the way so I can show you what else I have. I've put those down next to the mosquito coil, so they'll get all smoky now. Right, next I have been making up some needlebook kits. If you remember, if you've seen my previous videos, I was doing a vintage needlebook, and as I've been going through all my stuff, I'm finding a lot of materials and textiles and things that will make up needlebooks. I've been stitching some of my own, which I'll get to shortly, some more, but I thought it might be nice to share some. So I've made up some kits. This is one kit, for example. This one has a vintage piece of fabric. I've also included pellin, so that's already ironed on. I've cut it to size. It's ready to start stitching. There's half a vintage napkin in here to use as a pocket. There's a vintage hanky here, beautiful hanky in blues. There's a knitted doily. There's a heap of coordinating, just bits of fabric. They're all different sizes. They're just bits that you can use for pockets or for backings or linings or accents or tabs or whatever. This is just half a doily because the other half was damaged, so there's only half of embroidered doily here, but that's all you need to create your pocket. This is a piece of pure wool suiting that you can use for your needlebook pages. There's a piece of hand-dyed crocheted lace here. There is, I believe, under this yo-yo a bit of a hole in that, which I didn't notice until this morning, but I've measured it again and there still should be enough there to use. There's two vintage yo-yos. These are genuine vintage yo-yos. A little crocheted medallion here, a nice piece of vintage lace to use as your tie, a coordinating stranded cotton that you can do some stitching with, like accents, and I've just thrown in a neon for a pop of colour. Now every kit so far is going to have a pop of neon in it, if you like that sort of thing. There's a little woven tag that you can add if you like. This one's got a bear on it. There's a little handmade with heart tag I've included, and a made with love little charm that you can add if you like. This is a perlate. Now these are all, nearly everything I've used except for these and the neon are vintage. Everything has been upcycled, recycled, whatever. So that's one kit. Here's another. I think I've got 9 or 10 ready to go at the moment. Here's another one, a different colourway. This is a very pretty vintage floral in orange. This one again has a half a vintage napkin. That's just a little cutout that I thought was cute that I've included in my own needlebook. I just stitched that on with buttonhole. There's a vintage sandwich tray cloth included. That's a full cloth. Another little doily, needle woven doily to match that napkin. Again, quite a few pieces of coordinating fabrics that you can use for pockets or lining or accents or whatnot. A vintage, or to me that's retro, in this fabric. The definition of vintage, apparently, according to Google, is anything that's older than 20 years in textiles. To me, it's 100 years. So I'm calling some of these things retro. These are from the 80s, 70s. These are 70s. There's a beautiful, beautiful piece of hand-dyed doctor's flannel in here. I bought this many years ago for a project. I don't have much left. Beautiful fabric. And I've included that in this needlebook kit. I've got a coordinating stranded cotton. This is a vintage, or upcycled stranded cotton, this one. The pop of neon again, that's a new one. Vintage lace to use as your wrap, to tie it all together, or accents. There's a beautiful piece of vintage lace at the bottom that I've used in my needlebook as a pocket. Again, I've got a little woven tag here. This one has a corgi on it that you can include, a handmade tag that you can stitch in, and a made with love charm. There's two vintage yo-yos again, this retro embroidered flower, a cutter piece of embroidered linen here, and then of course our vintage crochet cotton. Again, this is upcycled. It has potentially been used. I've tried to upcycle everything. And yeah, there's another kit. Here's another one, again in oranges and yellows. This is a beautiful brushed cotton in this one, in a 70s print, original 70s. Again, I've included some wadding. There's a beautiful embroidered doily that's a pansy in yellow in this one that you can't see. Of course, we've got a heap of coordinating fabrics again. Lovely large piece of doctor's flannel to use for some pages. Another needle woven doily. This is just a cut off little bit of doily here. It's just that little bit. That was left over from another project I did, but it just went so well and I thought you might like to use it in this kit. Beautiful piece of vintage lace across the bottom here for a pocket. Vintage yo-yos, vintage lace to use as your tie or wrap. Another vintage crocheted medallion. Hanky, vintage hanky to use as a pocket. Again, an upcycled vintage or retro stranded cotton. This is a new neon for a pop. That's a pink. It might not be showing very well on the screen, but that's a neon pink. Another medallion here, half a vintage linen napkin for your pockets, and again, oh, we've got another one of those daisies, and again a vintage perlate cotton. And these I put in to stitch, mainly to do your canter stitch. And then I'll just show you one more colour again. I think I've got 9 or 10 ready to go, but I thought I'd just show you a few different colourways I've put together. This one's a beautiful, beautiful vintage bark cloth in pink and green. This was my grandmother's fabric, this one. I've also included half a vintage napkin for pockets. There's some beautiful coordinating vintage fabrics in here. They're all vintage except for this, which is a little piece of Tilda, and it's only a little piece, but it just worked so well, and that's all I had. This embroidered doily, that's all it is. It stops here, it's cut off here. That was given to me like that, so that's all I had, but it just worked so well. A little crocheted medallion in here. Piece of doctor's flannel, I think that one's folded in thirds, so there's quite a bit in there. A vintage handkerchief. This was one of my uncle's that he brought back from Hong Kong many, many years ago. A beautiful variegated vintage stranded anchor cotton here. This one is new, the neon in a pop of green, neon green. A beautiful vintage lace for the tie. Two vintage yo-yos. Again, this beautiful vintage lace in here to use to create a pocket. We've got this needle woven lace medallion, and again a little woven label that you can stitch in. This one looks like it might be a seal, I don't know. A handmade tag that you can stitch in, and there's also, even though you can't see it, a little handmade charm in there. So there's quite a few. There's other colorways, but yeah, I thought I'd just give you some samples. I've got a few kits ready. They are in my store. The link to that is in my bio, my YouTube bio. If you can't find that and you're interested, just leave a comment and I'll help you out with that. I have been trying to put a discount on them. I want to do a Christmas, just a Christmas promotion on those kits, but I still haven't worked out how to put that on. So again, If you're interested, let me know and I'll work out that. I think I'll do a 25% discount. Right, what else have I been up to? I've got, again, quite a few new things, some things that my friend has given again since we've last seen. Some of those are these, I don't know where to start, there's just so much. This beautiful, beautiful vintage ribbon. My goodness, what is that? Can you give me a second, please? I've got it. I just heard this big, I have to show you, a Christmas beetle. I need to hold on to this guy until I've finished filming, because our government is doing a Christmas beetle count. They've been doing it for a few years now, and all the Christmas beetles have been disappearing, and there's a program where the government's been asking us if we find any we've been asked to log them. Just take a photograph and release it and log that we've seen one. And that's the first one I've seen in years, so I've just put him under a pot plant until I finish filming, and I'll take a photograph and send that information off to them as soon as I'm done. I heard him buzzing around my head and he landed right next to me. So yes, this beautiful vintage ribbon. It's all woven, as you can see. It's just stunning. There's 1.5 meters of that. And my first thought was that it's just, the fabric's quite unusual. I don't know. It's probably not as old as what I think it is, but it looks, you know, maybe 60s, 70s to me. Maybe not. It's certainly not modern, that's for sure. And then there's this one. There's 1 meter of this one. And I'm assuming it's the same age because it's very similar fabric. Obviously it's not as wide, but it even has similar flowers. It's manufactured the same way. So yeah, I thought that was nice too. And that, as I said, there's 1 meter of that one. And then there's 1 meter of this one as well. This one is a different fabric, so it could be a little bit more modern, but it's still quite pretty. So I've got those from my friend. I got, now this is not what I've been buying lately, but I have a couple of my ex-mother-in-law, before she passed away a couple of years ago, gave me 2 quilt kits, and they were in batik, and one's purple and one's in blues, and I've been going to make one for my daughter and one for my son, but I just don't have enough fabric to complete them. So when I saw this the other day, I think this was 50 cents, there's 1/2 meter. I grabbed it to add to those quilts. So that's another one. And then I saw this, I'm pretty sure it's not vintage, but it's quite sort of 1960s or 70s to me. I thought it was quite cute, and I thought it might make, it's not cut, it's not an even, oh look at that, I didn't even notice that. There's a funny, I don't know what's happened there, funny bit cut out. But I thought that might make a nice needlebook too. I quite like that. I think that's a bit retro. You know what? A few years ago I couldn't stand retro anything. Probably because my parents' house was built in the early 70s. We had orange shag pile and purple wool furniture and aqua accessories, and it was stunning for its time. But yeah, growing up, we were teased a bit about it. It was architecturally designed. They had an interior decorator, and it was very fancy at the time. Then I got another one of these. I think this was like 50 cents as well. I don't think I have a crinoline lady. I don't think this is vintage because this came with it. And that's certainly not old, unless someone's just reprinted it a few years ago, typed it up and redone it. So that's another little one to add to the stash of things that I'm going to do one day. I think I need to live to be 175 at this rate to get everything done. Okay, next thing, different shop. I found this. This was 50 cents. Now someone's gone to all the trouble to make, it's got $1, but they had 50% off, so I paid 50 cents for this. It's, you know, where's my tape measure? I bet everything will fall down. Oh, it's so steamy. 65 centimetres squared, that bit. So obviously someone's pieced this, and then none of the stitching's done except for this stem, and this stem, and they've been machine stitched. I thought I'd hand stitch it, and I thought I'd just add some bits to it and make it into a knee rug or something. Even if I just donate it to the oncology unit or something, I'm sure someone would like that. So that's it for 50 cents, goodness me. Then I got some more linen. Now these I've been collecting for the last 2 weeks. I don't think I've shown you any of these. If I have, I apologise. I got this little, again, all different shops. And sometimes if I call in, I might see one thing and that's all I get. So this is just a little, what do you call it? Supper cloth, I suppose. It's got this applique and embroidery. It's quite cute. I thought it might be useful for something. Now, I have soaked and washed and pressed and starched all of these. I got these little napkins. Aren't they tiny? I don't think I've ever seen any so tiny. They're linen. They're very sweet. And I think it was 8 or 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7, sorry. And I think it cost me 50 cents for all those. Then I got these ones. Someone has stitched all these. They've got pulled and withdrawn thread work on them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and then there's also, oh look, there's another one of those napkins that was hiding. There's also this matching tray mat, and I think for that and all those it was $1. Now that green supper cloth thing that I just showed you, the applique, when I got it home and unrolled it to put it in to soak, these 3 napkins fell out of it and we didn't even know they were in there. So it looks like there's only 3. They're handmade, but I think someone's machine stitched this at home. It's very tight. So I'm not sure what I would do with those, but they were in that little cloth. I found this linen. It has been soaked, but it's got funny mottily, and I think that was 20 cents. So that was worth it even just for the linen. This is a cot sheet, and again this was 50 cents, and I got this for the lace. Can you imagine that lace in a needlebook? Very pretty. Got this little tray cloth, it's folded in half. I thought it was machine embroidered, but it's not actually. Now I have soaked this, and there's this mark here that I can't get out, but it's very pretty. Then I got this doily. Very big chunky stitches on this one. It's all hand stitched, and I think again I paid 20 cents for that. I've gotten some real good bargains lately. I don't think I've shown you this supper cloth. It's very pretty, all embroidered. It's just got random flowers embroidered on it. It's linen. It's a very pretty little one, that one. Got this one, again a square. I believe this is machine stitched, this one. But again, on cotton, very pretty, very usable. Most of the stains come, I just noticed there's a tiny little mark there. They smell so good after they've been washed and soaked. This one, you can't go past these really. Again, another square tablecloth, supper cloth. And then a similar one, but much prettier on linen. It's beautiful, this one. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. So that one. And then I got this one. This one was at the Salvos. Again, advertised for $4. They charged me $2 for it. It was all screwed up. It was all, it was clean. It looked like it had been washed and then screwed up in a ball, to be honest. So I brought it home and soaked it, washed it, pressed it, and it's beautiful. So there's that one. Then I got these, I think there's just the two, I don't know, I'm sure. No, I haven't pressed them all yet. I think there's 4 of these napkins. And then this random one that was in something. Beautiful linen. Again, machine stitched, I'm pretty sure. Then this little one. This one. This one. This one's interesting. It's on linen. And I assume these are camels. They could be llama, I suppose. And donkeys. And this to me, and I'm probably wrong, this looks like cedar of Lebanon to me, but I've got no idea. Don't know if I'll actually use this in any kits or anything, but it was really interesting, so I got that one. I thought it was cute. Then little hanky, little vintage hanky. There was another hanky, and I think I put it in one of those kits. It was like an 80s one. And then another little sandwich cloth tray. So that's that. Then there's more. I found this the other day, which I just couldn't leave there. It is stained, but look at that. Someone's done all that work. It's absolutely beautiful. It's silk. It's all done in silk. So it looks like it's been torn out of something, but I couldn't leave that. I thought it was too pretty. And this one is wool, but it's warped, so I don't know if I can salvage it. And again, these I'm hoping to make other things with, not to frame them. So that one's all wool. This one, I think I might have shown you this one. I did have this one a few weeks ago. And I'm not sure. This seems to be a combination of silk and cotton. It might be all silk, but I've got this one as well. And then I found this one, which I believe is wool as well. Yeah, I know it's lying down, but it fits in the frame better for you to see. And then I may have shown you this one before as well, because I had it before, but I've only just dug it out. This one's wool as well, with some metallic gold. And again, this one's very warped. I actually brought this one to line a box with, but I don't think I'm going to get it to work. So that leads me on to my next thing that I found. Bear with me for a moment while I move these out of the way so they don't get damaged. Oh, it is so steamy. I'm absolutely... It's warm and steamy and uncomfortable. Can you hear all those cicadas? I'm sure you can. When I went to the shop the other day, the people were complaining about the cicadas, and I said, I can handle the cicadas, even when they get deafening. It's all the biting insects we've had lately that I'm struggling with, the march flies, the sand flies, the mosquitoes, all of those guys. Right, so the next thing I found, and I've got to be careful what I say because I'm planning on doing this as a gift for someone who I think watches these videos. I found this old cutlery box. I bought it to replace, I've got a beautiful carving set and cutlery that I got years ago, and part of the holders inside have broken, and I bought this thinking that I'd swap the box out and use the original box, but the original box I've got is much larger than this, so I'm now going to use this one to do what I had planned. So I found this old cutlery box. I've been to consult with my dad over it this morning because he's already done a couple of these, and he's already started to pull it apart for me, which I wasn't quite ready to do, but that's okay. So this is it. This is, God love him, look, he's pulled all the bits up already. And this part up here, it's hard to show here. So that's where your knives were. You just put those in there. Your carving knife and forks sat in here, and then your knives and forks and spoons and whatnot went in here. So what I'm thinking is I'm hoping to pull all this out. It's all glued in, which is interesting. And the plan is to clean it all up, and I'm hoping to turn it in. That looks like wool up the back there. This is the felt. I don't think the felt would be wool. It could be, but this bit here looks like doctor's flannel. So I'm planning on turning it into a sewing box and line it all, maybe put a pocket in here. I'm not exactly sure yet, but the plan is to make it as a gift. Oh, look at that. It's coming out a bit easier than that gets stuck on there. It just seems to be just glued in. I didn't want that to happen. It's tearing some parts. I mean, it'll come off anyway. There we go. It's interesting how it's been put together. This tape. This is that tape that you used to use when you framed your pictures. I can't remember what it's called. I mean, I imagine this would have to be close to 100 years old, maybe a bit older. Which part of me hates. I'm glad Dad did rip it up because I struggle to make that first step. I don't like to destroy things. Okay. There's that bit out. So, whoops, there's a pin or a nail there. I have to watch that. That would have been, that would have held the knife holder. So I'll have to knock that through. Then we've got to get this top bit out. So that's the plan anyway. I'll scrape those bits off gently and sand it all back. I don't know, Dad reckons I had planned on, I was going to lightly sand all this lacquer, and I bought this beautiful wax ages ago when I did the course for my birthday with the trug, and I was just going to seal it with the wax, but he thinks I don't need to sand it. He thinks I should just go straight over the top with the wax, but I'm not sure. There's a few scratches, so anyway, that's what I'm planning to do with that. And I only found it last week, and I only decided yesterday or the day before what to do with it. And of course I want to get it done for Christmas, and I don't think at this rate it will be done for Christmas. So, next thing, goodness, I have been stitching some more fabrics for Needlebooks. You may have seen some of these already. This is a piece of Sanderson I've started. You can see this one I've drawn lines that I'm following to try and keep it neat. This is another vintage piece that I started a while back. This is huge, and I don't know why I made it so big. Maybe I was going to make more of a sewing roll than a needle book. So that's another one I've started. That one's been set aside for now because I'm concentrating more on the needle books. This is another piece. Obviously I've just cut out and put the wadding on. I haven't started stitching yet. I'm trying to get some of these done in the fabrics that I've put in the kits so people can see what they come up like. This is another, this is a, what do you call it? Oh, that colour looks nice on there. This is a lawn, beautiful vintage cotton lawn that I want to do. I've got this in my box, I'm not sure why. This is a project I started ages ago. It's all linen. I've hand dyed bits of fabric in here, and I've hand dyed the thread, and it was just going to be all bits I layered together to make a shawl with, so haven't done anything on that for a while. This is a piece of that bark cloth that I've been doing a small needlebook in. But this piece, in my infinite wisdom, decided that instead of drawing lines on it and keeping it nice and neat, which I nearly always do because not being neat drives me bananas, I wanted to be a bit more rustic. And I haven't drawn lines, and you can see it's a lot more rustic, this one. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? I'm trying to push through how much it's irking me. I'm going to keep going. But yes, it's very inconsistent, that one. Here's one I finished earlier, well, the stitching. This is that beautiful 1970s brushed cotton. I've just pinned a couple of things on here to see how it looks. This is obviously a crocheted medallion that I thought might look good on the front. I'm thinking instead of blanket stitching this, I might put vintage bias binding around it, if I've got the right colour. And then I've got this, I don't know if I'll put that inside, this Doctor's flannel lining, pure wool, and I might stitch that in as a pocket in the lining and then put the pages inside. So there's that so far. I've also been working on, I think I might have already shown you this. This was a doily that I got hold of. It was very stained, so I've soaked it, and after I soaked it, all of the crochet edge disintegrated, so I've been crocheting a new edge for this one. I was gifted some vintage, beautiful vintage, what's it called, Irish linen hankies. So I've been trying to crochet an edge on one of those. And what's the bet? I've started this pattern and won't remember what I was doing because I was making it up as I was going. So there's that as well that I've been working on. And then I've got some vintage yo-yos I bought from Beck. But I want to use some of these in my own projects, and I'm afraid I'm going to run out, so I've started making some yo-yos from vintage fabrics. So they're not vintage yo-yos as such, but so I've been cutting out circles. These are all 1950s or earlier. These are from my grandmother's, and these are ones I bought. This is a 70s sheet, obviously, like a Sheridan sheet. That one. And these are vintage textiles I bought at the market last time I went. So I've just been making yo-yos from vintage textiles. So in between, oh, and if you recall, I don't know if it was the last video or the one before, I was sharing that I had some vintage transfers, iron-on transfers that you'd put on linen. And I showed one I had, I think it was little flowers. And at the time I pulled out one, I think it was a butterfly. I know exactly where it is, but I'm not going to dig it out because it's under a stack of those containers. And I did say at the time that I thought it was an embossed stamp, but I'd never seen these like this before. I've also got these vintage transfers. I've got two the same here. I've had these for quite some time. When I opened these up, oh, I'm sorry, it's just so humid and horrible. And it's not these ones. Yes, it is. So when I open these out, they look like they've been embossed, but they're not. That's how they are. And some of you would have already known that, but I didn't, because the ones I've had in the past were not like that. So the butterfly that I thought was an embossed stamp was not an embossed stamp. It was one of these transfers. So I'm also thinking, I've come across quite a few lovely vintage designs that I'd like to embroider on some linen. I have some beautiful bits of vintage linen from here, there and everywhere. Bits that have been rescued or donated or gifted or whatever. And I'm thinking I might draw some vintage inspired designs to do some embroidery. That's another thing on my list of to do. As I said, no idea when on earth I'm going to get all this done, but that's where I'm at. I also have a package sitting inside the door there, waiting to be mailed to Canada. So thank you again so much, Kathleen. A lovely lady purchased my Needlebook and a few other things, which was really exciting. But if you may or may not be aware, there's a postal strike in Canada at the moment, which has been ongoing for about 4 weeks, maybe a bit longer. And I thought that I'd still be able to post my parcels, submit them to Australia Post, but they're not even accepting any mail until the strike's over. So the customs declaration's been done, the parcel's been packaged, it's in its Australia Post satchel, it's ready to go. We're just waiting for the Canadian Postal Service to stop their strike. It must be incredibly frustrating for you guys, not knowing when it will end. I hate to think if you've ordered things for Christmas gifts or, goodness, I don't even know. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not looking forward to Christmas this year. I find it very stressful. I don't have any gifts for most of my family because I've had quite a few unexpected bills the last few weeks. Don't know if I told you, I think I've started hydrotherapy, which I've been really enjoying. It's exhausting, but I've been really enjoying it. But at the same time, the doctor, not my regular doctor, the doctor at the clinic decided that I should go on a weight loss program, which is what I wanted to do, but it just took a bit of a turn that I didn't expect. And he put me on Optifast, which, if you're not from Australia, you may not be familiar. It's basically a weight loss meal supplement. also a, what do they call it, a VLCD, very low calorie diet. So I was put on 800 calories or less a day, which is actually more than what I was eating previously anyway. And I was also put on a weight loss tablet medication because I had tried several other diets and exercise and whatnot that had not worked. Despite me saying that I think it's more hormonal than anything, because I exercise regularly and I eat well, they didn't believe me, so I had to go through the motions. Turns out I was allergic to the medication. I became very ill. I ended up having these, got to the point where I was having these seizures, and they stopped my GP stopped the medication, and then told me that if I'd stayed on it much longer that my organs would have started to shut down, my kidneys and liver. So then my body reacted in another way when the medication was stopped, and I didn't sleep for 5 days. So because I couldn't sleep, I couldn't sit still, so I was going through all my boxes, sorting all that out. And then on day 6 I woke up and my legs were blown up from my hips down, which has never happened. And I had so much fluid I couldn't move, and it felt like my skin was going to tear open. So I ended up in the hospital and was treated for that. Thankfully I convinced them. We just did like rice, so rest, ice, compression, elevation for 2 days, and that pretty much fixed it. Then the doctor at the clinic, at the hydro clinic, decided to take me off the Optifast because I was having an adverse reaction to that as well. So I've been quite unwell. It's really knocked me around. And then a week or so ago, I think it was because I wasn't sleeping and my behaviour had changed, my dog ended up getting sick, and I woke up on the Friday morning and she was standing really weird, like her front legs were splayed out, she was shaking, she was drooling uncontrollably. I thought she may have had bloat or pyromitra or goodness knows what, so I rang the vet, had to take her straight up. The vet sat with her for nearly 4 hours just trying to get her trust because she was freaking out. And he diagnosed her with panic attacks and anxiety. So she's now medicated. She's on anti-anxiety and antidepressants, which have been, the first 2 days knocked her around, but she's doing really well now. But as a result of all that, I had to take out a loan to pay all the bills, all the vet bills and my medical bills and whatnot. So that means that there's not much here happening for Christmas from my end of things, unfortunately. I've been trying to make as many gifts as I can, but there's only so many gifts you can make for your parents and your children and their partners and nieces and nephews and sisters and brothers-in-law and whatnot. So yeah, not able. I mean, I know, I'm sure my family don't expect gifts, but I feel bad when they have gifts for me and I don't have anything for them. You know what I mean? I'm sure you know. I'm sure some of you understand at least. Yeah. But apart from that, I mean, I'm sure Christmas will be wonderful. We're going to my sister's. She has a beautiful pool, so if it's hot, we'll be able to get in the pool. She has a beautiful home where we can sit back and relax. We usually have a baked dinner or a barbecue lunch, or we have champagne breakfast with seafood. So it will be lovely. Tomorrow I'm going on the fire truck and we're doing the Santa run. So one of our members dresses up as Santa and we throw lollies to the children. And then tomorrow night we're having our brigade Christmas party, so I'm looking forward to that. And then on Monday we're going out on the truck again for I'm not exactly sure what it is, promotional thing. So I'm looking forward to that as well. It's the first time I've been on the truck for a few years because I haven't been well enough. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also getting a bit anxious about it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm capable. I know it's not out firefighting, so I shouldn't be anxious. You've just got to, you don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let your team members down. You want to make sure that you're physically capable of doing what needs to be done. Yeah, so there's that. But it should be good. I'm looking forward to it. Willow usually comes to the station with me if I'm not going on the truck, so she might end up back down there for the Christmas party tomorrow night. She doesn't cope if she's away from me for too long, so that should be good. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, how I'm doing this without having the lines drawn on here, more trucks, goodness. I live in a cul-de-sac, so it's unusual for so many trucks to come. So I'm actually trying to follow the weave of the fabric. I always get the warp and the weft mixed up. But I'm trying to just follow the way the fabric runs. Now I've come into a funny... What's happened, I don't know if you can see, I'd done a stitch here that I thought I was following, and then when I've gone back in this direction it's splayed out like that. So now I'm just trying to come back and fill in that big gap a bit, and this run that I'm doing now has come up against this other one, so I might end that off instead of carrying it too far. So what are you guys planning for Christmas? Are you spending Christmas with family? Are you hosting? Are you going away with your family? Are you, goodness, doing nothing? Do you not celebrate Christmas? I don't know. What other options are there? I'm not familiar because we've always celebrated Christmas. We used to have champagne breakfast with the neighbours where I grew up, at Mum and Dad's. All the neighbours would gather at 9 a.m. and we'd have champagne breakfast. And then for lunch we used to go to, I can't remember which way. I think lunch was my mother's family. We'd go there, and then dinner we'd go to my father's family. But they've all passed now, so we really just do our own thing at my sister's these days. So now I'm going to come back up in between where that's splayed out. I'll try to get in between. I'm not, again, this one's very rustic. So today the temperature's about 38 degrees Celsius, and we have about 11 o'clock this morning we had 89% humidity. And tomorrow, as I said, one of our members will be dressing up as Santa Claus, and I hate to think if it's warm and humid like this, it's going to be interesting trying to keep him cool in this weather. He'll be on the back of the truck, so he'll be, I don't know if he'll be on the back or in the front seat. I don't think we're allowed to get in the back anymore in the refuge bay. So he'll probably be in the front seat, which will be okay because we can have the aircon on. We'll be taking out 2 trucks, so we've got the Cat 1, which is like it's not really a tanker, Category 1 firefighting appliance, and then a Cat 9, which is a 2-seater 4-wheel drive. I'm quite excited about this because the brigade I was with previously, the suburb that we covered was that small. We never did a Santa run. So this is a new experience for me. We really only had 2 streets over there and there weren't many children, so we never used to do the Santa run before. So again, I'm just trying to follow the weave of the fabric now. I know I'm not stitching what some of you might think correctly, so if I was doing a proper, I want to be careful what I call it. So a Cantha inspired stitch, let's say that, which is an Indian embroidery, or a Japanese inspired similar to shishiko. Especially with a shishiko, it's often done this sort of way. So you usually, I don't have my thimble on here to push it either. So it's usually done like this, but I don't like the way the stitch sits when you pull it through. I don't know if you can see the difference. Where I've pulled that through, it doesn't sit as proud and the stitches are a little bit of a different shape. It's hard to explain, but if you try it yourself at home, you'll see. So I take much longer and do either up and down like this, because I like the way the stitch looks, or sometimes I'll just go and do one at a time, like this. again, each style, each either the in and out, in and out, in and out, and like the Japanese style, or the up, pull it through, down, down, pull it through, up, pull it through, down, pull it through, or the this way, one sort of in and up like that. So there's 3 different ways. Every one of those 3 different ways, the stitch sits slightly differently. What else can I talk to you about or show you? I suppose I can show you, if you've never done, most of you would have done them, I'm sure. If you haven't done Suffolk puffs or yo-yos, they're the same thing. I can show you how I do those. Listen to that truck. Okay, let's have a look. Here's some of those vintage fabrics. I don't have much of this left, but I like to use, this one's a Metler, extra stark polyester. I thought I had a cotton, but this is like a top stitch. It's quite heavy compared to this is a Gutermann, and it is, see, this is 100% cotton sewing thread. I don't know if you can see the difference in the thickness. So I like this thicker one for the Suffolk puffs. I need to get more, I'm running very low. I mean, you could even use these, I suppose. It's thicker, it's sturdier. So I've cut out, oh, that noise is driving me bonkers. Cut out circles. They're supposed to be round. I used a, what did I use? I can't remember, it was a cup or something. Traced around it and then cut it out. This is our cotton. Now I just do a, I hope you can still hear me over all that. A quilter's knot, which, if you don't know what they are, the needle's threaded. You point your needle towards the center and then get the tail end so they're facing each other. Lay the tail end on top of the needle and hold it. Do 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 wraps. That's all you need. Pinch those wraps and then pull it while you're pinching it. Pull it through and you end up with a quilter's knot. Now I'm going to cut that tail off because I don't need that. Oh my goodness. Here's our fabric, in this case vintage fabric. This is quite delicate because it's so old. I've got the back, the reverse facing me. Now I'm folding. You only want to go about, it's a bit wider, but I only want to go about 1/4 inch, I suppose. Push my needle in So I'm finding around approximately the center of that. I'm pushing my needle in until my knot comes. Then I want to just slowly manipulate that edge over, and I'm coming up again about, I don't know, how far would that be? 5 mil maybe from the notch. And then we just sort of keep keep manipulating that edge. It's difficult because it's round, and of course because you're folding it inwards, it wants to flick out. So you've got to sort of keep manipulating and doing a running stitch, trying to keep those stitches fairly evenly spaced. Now what I've found, I used to do tiny little neat stitches, but the smaller you do them, you end up with, I'll see if I can find an example. So the smaller you do the stitches, you end up with a large opening like this, because it's, how can I explain it? You're getting more bulk the smaller the stitches. The bigger the stitches, you end up with a smaller closure opening. So I sort of try and go largish or middle of the range. You don't want them too large either, because then these waves will sit too big. So you can see as we go, we just keep manipulating that edge. I think some people don't do this turned over edge as deep as I'm doing, but I think too, because this fabric is so old and delicate, I just want to make sure it's not going to fray. I could potentially put fray stop or something, I suppose, but it's not really necessary. So we just keep going around, keep manipulating that edge, keep doing our running stitch. And then here's our knot. We keep going. Now I always have trouble with this. I want to make sure it's sort of meets up, so I continue to go past that knot so it overlaps. And not everyone does it this way, this is just the way I like to do it. And then you've got to sort of gently pull it in, gather it in. And you've got to sort of manipulate it as you go, because sometimes these bits turn under. Gently tighten it. And then I come in and find, because I've gone past that knot and kept going in where those waves were, I'll then come down and find, can you see the gathers have created waves? So I come down in the bottom of one of those waves, just catch that and do a knot. Just do it like an overhand knot. and then do another one. To secure it. Then I want my needle to go, even use the back of it. So I'm just going in that pocket, I'm not going through anything until I get to the edge, pulling that out. So I've just essentially tucked that tail in there. Then I pull that a little bit tight, not too much, and snip it off, and your tail's hidden in your puff. There you go. There's your Suffolk puff or yo-yo. And 3, 4. It's interesting looking at these, how they've been done. I love how this is. I actually pulled one of them apart to get the size, and I measured it very carefully and thought I had matched all these, but mine, as you can see, I thought they were. So these are the vintage ones. These ones are the original vintage ones from Beck. I cut my fabric the same size, and look at how much smaller they are. So what I realized firstly was that when I'm turning my edge over, I'm turning it over further than what these people have. Whoever did these many years ago. I believe these are from the 20s or 30s. Yeah, and apart from that, I'm not sure why they're so much smaller, but there we go. The other interesting thing I've been looking at is how they've been joined together. So there's just a knot, and they've used a heavy thread like this. There's a knot, and then it's basically just overhand and then tied off. So I've unpicked a lot of them because I wanted individual ones. I'd love to go into Beck's shop and buy some more actually. This one fascinates me, how big it is. I love them. One day I want to have a vintage quilt made of just Suffolk puffs. I've wanted one of those for years. Look at this, isn't that a beautiful fabric? That's so pretty, that one. You can see here, and this is how I used to do mine. You can see it's anchored in the middle here. That's how they finished off. When they got to the end of the round, they finished it off here, caught it, tied a knot. So I've worked out how to do it so you don't get that. They haven't all got it. I'd assume because these were all joined together, this was a big piece, this one. I assume they were all made by the same person. They may not have been. I suppose they could have had a sewing circle, or a mother and daughter could have sat on the veranda and stitched them or something. I don't know. But there you go. Let's do another colour, hey? This piece is interesting. Look at that. There's a hole worn in it. That truck. Seriously. I think I'm a bit, what's the word I want? Bit sensitive to noisy vehicles at the moment, because there's some that live down the road. They originally had 2 vehicles that were all hotted up and noisy. In the last week or so they've acquired 2 more, so now there's 4, and they often just go up and down, up and down, up and down, and they rev, and they just I just don't really see the point. Not in suburbia, not... Anyway, I need to try and get over that. Oh, I'm not sure if I told you guys in previous videos that my daughter was in hospital. She's been in hospital, I think we're up to, I can't remember if it's 6 times or 8 times now. She's about 1,800 kilometres away from me, which I find it difficult because I just want to go and support her. Don't get me wrong, her fiance is marvellous. He's such a sweetheart and he bends over backwards to care for her. But it's all so very new to him as well, and he's not quite sure what to do some of the time. Gets a bit overwhelmed, which is understandable. But she has an enormous gallstone that is inflamed. It's incredibly painful. They won't operate because she needs to lose weight, but she can't lose weight because she's so unwell. Again, they've medicated her and she's ended up having a reaction to it like I did. So she hasn't been able to work, which is very upsetting for them, for her and her fiance. It's very upsetting that she's so sick and they don't seem to be doing much of anything to help. So yes, it's not the best situation for her at the moment, and even though the doctors are saying words, they're not saying the words that we want to hear. And because she's in a different state, things are done differently there than they are here. And yeah, it's just really difficult. I'm constantly concerned that this damn gallbladder is going to rupture or something. She's had infections, she's had inflammation and horrendous pain and goodness knows vomiting, and as you can imagine. So it's very, very frustrating. Now that one, for some reason, isn't sitting very well. Can you see? It's not a nice, smooth gather. Don't know what I've done, but it's not sitting overly nicely. Put him in the jar. Here's another colour. Had all sorts of things I thought I'd show you guys. I've been thinking about for days. Apart from all the stuff I've found, I can't remember what else I was going to show. Isn't that ridiculous? Look at that. I think the back of that looks better than the front. I might go that way, hey? I hope that truck's not frustrating you, because I can tell you now it's certainly frustrating me. I don't know what they're doing. No, I can't see. Got no idea. It sounds like they're very close though. If, I must say too, if any of you have been commenting while I've been talking, I apologise sincerely. I cannot see the screen today, so I can't see if you've been saying anything. I apologise for that. So I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see what you're saying. I'm sitting here thinking, what else can I show you? What can we do today? And then I've gone completely silent because I can't think of anything. I brought my lunch out here when I started. I haven't touched my lunch because it's just so hot and uncomfortable. I don't feel like eating. I should though, that's part of my problem. I don't eat and then I feel sick. That one's sitting better, look at that. Can you see the difference? There we go. Put them in the jar. I can't think of much else, guys. What do you think? I'm not convinced yet that this is the right medallion for this. Whoever did it hasn't finished it off overly well, have they? So I've just noticed these have been cut, some of the crochet bits, so I wonder, I don't know if this will work, I wonder if I can stitch them together a bit before they fall apart. Don't know if this will work. I've just got some white sewing cotton. I'm not going to use crochet cotton because it'll get too chunky. Let's put a bit of a knot in the end. And that one's in one piece still. That one's in one piece. That's in one piece. This one's not. So with any luck I can just catch those chain, and I'm not going to repair as such because it gets a bit messy when you start trying to do that. I'm just going to stitch those together to stop it unraveling even further. So I basically just caught the two complete chain stitches either side that hadn't unraveled yet and stitched them together to stop them unraveling even further, and I've just left the bits that had already unraveled. I'm just going to cut that tail off that I just created. And finish it off. And I'm just going to weave that tail in there a little bit. So I can cut it off and it should stay neatly tucked in. Do another knot. Cut that little tail off. Oops, I cut the whole knot off. Now we've got this corner, so I'm going to catch that first whole chain that's not unravelled, and then the next one on the other side. And I'm just going to try and secure them a little bit so they don't come unravelled anymore. I don't for the life of me know what on earth that truck is doing. So I'm just going to finish this off again. And again, I'm not tidying up those crochet ends because A, if I do, it's more likely to come unravelled, and B, I want it to look as original as possible. So this is just holding it, making sure it doesn't unravel anymore, just putting a holding stitch basically. So I'll just weave this thread into that cotton so we can cut our tail off. And again, I'm just cutting the cotton there that I had just done, not the crocheted bit. Here's another one. You can see it's coming unravelled. So I'll catch that chain stitch and then opposite side. And I'm just securing them so they don't come unravelled any further. I'm basically just doing a few overhand stitches to make sure it's going to hold, and you'll see the crochet ends that have been cut are still there, they're still loose, but I've secured them in where they've started to unravel so they don't go any further. End it off, and again put another knot. Oops, I missed that. And then I'll tuck that in. Oh, and more noise. One more. Sounds like they're pressure washing or something, doesn't it? So see, this one's come open. So I'll catch that, not that last chain stitch, the one before. And then on the other side over here, and I'm just going to try and secure them in place so they don't unravel any further. Goodness me. Okie dokie, and once more I'll just weave that in. And cut it off. So now, in theory, that should be nice and secure. Oh, I still don't like that bit there. Let's check that out. See that center? I'm not sure if it's just been cut off. It doesn't look like it's been woven in. So I'm just going to catch that tail in the back there and tack it down just to make sure it doesn't come unravelled. That's all. And that should just about do it. I'll end that off. I don't know what's stuck on my finger there. Looks like a dog goober. Don't you come out of there yet. One more knot. Weave it in, weave the tail in. cut it off. There we go. That's better. There. Now, in theory, we should be able to stitch this medallion down and not worry about it coming unravelled. That was holding that on. What I've just noticed is all my basting stitch is still in here. So, oh, I know why. Because I've basted the doctor's flannel in. So I'll leave that there until I do the binding and put the pocket in. That's why I've done that. Now all I've got to do is decide. I think I will. I wasn't going to cut these edges off. You just dropped out then, guys. I think I'll cut that off. It's going to be too bulky. And that doesn't look overly square to me, so I'm going to have to check that as well. Square it all off. I think I'll use the, where are we? Of course I can't get to that right now because the mat and the ruler's holding the beetle under the pot. So we've been going for nearly 2 hours. That's a long video again, so I will end it here. I'll endeavour to try and get some more of this done. I probably won't get back on tomorrow because I've got the Santa run and the Christmas party. I might be able to hop back on Sunday, and then as I mentioned I've got that promotional thing on Monday, so I may not have time to get on Monday either. But it's great to be back. I hope you're all well. Pretty sure I'll be on here again before Christmas. Thank you so much for joining me today. As usual, if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If I can't answer in the next video, I will either respond to your comment, or I will answer in another way that I can. Don't forget, if you're interested in those hexagons, someone had started that flower garden earlier, the colours that I don't like, if you're interested in those and you'd like me to send them to you if you pay for postage, please let me know in the comments and we'll work something out. I don't want to just throw them out. That's wasteful, and if someone can use them, I'd love to pass them on. If you live locally to me in Lake Macquarie, I'm sure we can arrange for you to collect them instead of them being posted. But apart from that, I think that's about it for today. Again, thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. That would be marvellous. That will help me do more videos, only because I'm restricted to lives at the moment because my phone can't handle anything more than live recordings. And at the moment I don't quite have enough followers. We're getting there, we're getting very close. But if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, which will enable me to do more recordings. So thank you once again. Have a fabulous day. As I said, I probably won't be on here again before Sunday. So have a fabulous weekend, or partial weekend if I don't get to speak to you before then. Be safe, and take care. And thank you again for joining me.